The key takeaway is this idea that search is becoming probabilistic, that the way that we thought about search in the past is changing. It's not just about rankings anymore. It's about creating the content that gives your brand the best chance to show up. It's like a raffle, buying lots of raffle tickets for a lottery that's changing every single time someone searches. So you better understand your audience, you better do your research, and you better make sure that you're everywhere that your audience is to be found. I'm Garrett Sussman, and this is SEO in 2026.
Garrett, what's your number one SEO tip for 2026?
Okay, folks, you need to treat AI search as probabilistic, not predictable, and build content strategies rooted in deep audience understanding. Because what shows up in search results depends on who's searching and how they search.
Got you. Okay, so it's not a case of being probable as to whether or not the answer is likely to be correct. It's simply probable with regards to whether or not your content is likely to surface in front of someone.
Bingo. I mean, we're just getting so used to this idea of LLMs and AI search impacting traditional search. So our whole kind of mindset around rankings and organic links is really changing, and it's going to accelerate over the next 6 to 12 months. And so when we're looking at the AI overviews, AI mode, even ChatGPT, and what is put out, it's not the same answer every time. So there's a probability giving yourself the best chance to show up, whether it's for the targeted query or one of the jargon terms that's been coming up in our industry is the query fan out, which is this idea that when AI overviews or AI mode is doing a search, it's actually looking at like 20 to 30 to 50 related searches and pulling relevant info from there. So what is the probability that content you produce, whether it's for that specific keyword or related keywords, is pulled in and helps your brand become more visible for your audience?
And the query fan out, that essentially predicts what people are likely to continue to talk about in the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately the goal is to increase the satisfaction rating and really give you the answer based on your search intent that you're looking for. And so the query fan out is trying to accomplish this, knowing what other people have searched in the past, understanding the relevance of a topic and the subrelated topics, and thinking about your entire conversation journey so that, to your point, it identifies whatever you could possibly be looking for with that search and answers it in one go.
You also mentioned the word keywords there. Do you still do keyword research prior to deciding what content you're going to focus on?
Yeah, I think it is still going to be transitional to this idea of topicality, which is ultimately where we're going to go, where it's a little more gray area. It's a little more messy because we're so used to in our industry thinking about keyword search volume. Oh, I'm going to target this keyword because 100,000 people are searching for it. But what we have to start thinking about is the way that people are searching is going to change, kind of what I referenced at the beginning. As we get more conversational in our searches, there's less friction where we can trust that the output is going to be specific to what we're looking for and not us being trained on the capabilities of a search engine to use keywordese, like one word or two words to get something close to what we're looking for. Then that keyword volume kind of perspective doesn't have the same value because you're never really going to see that same single one word search anymore. People are going to use natural language. And so over time, we're going to see the shift from the keywords to more general topics and just natural language types of searches.
Got you. Okay. So as we're shifting towards natural language, does this mean that we're probably not able to create a piece of content targeting a keyword phrase and writing extensively about a topic? Is that something that is of the past now?
To some extent, yeah. I think that, when you think about information that anybody can supply, it's commodified. And so, we're so used to this copycat content to be the one chosen by Google or whatever search engine. And so the value of being the one to provide that information, if it's commodified, has decreased. And so the value you can now provide is something more, any proprietary information or data or insights, or when someone is specifically looking for your brand. So I think the content strategy is going to shift. There will still be times where it might be appropriate to try to target a specific keyword, but I think that's going to become more rare as search behavior changes.
How will an SEO and indeed a head of marketing measure SEO success moving forward if it's not so possible to actually target something very specific with a known keyword volume?
I mean, in a lot of ways, it is going to become trickier, similar to kind of brand performance metrics. We're so used to being able to put data to it, but if you don't have the data and everything's messy, we've been having this conversation with attribution over the past while. Is maybe it's not as precise as we want it to be, but it's still somewhat accurate. And so you're going to want to look from the bottom up, if you will. Look at those key business driving metrics and seeing SEO or AI search or GEO, whatever you want to call it, as a support for all of your marketing holistically. And that whether or not we're still going to see some traffic driven to our website, it's not going to be the same volume. But what we're starting to see and hear about as people do more and more experiments is when someone does search and goes to your website, they're usually much further down the funnel. They have a stronger intent to find your services, and likely that traffic is more likely to actually convert and become revenue and be more valuable.
And you also talk about the same query, different user, different answer. Does this mean that it's quite possible nowadays for exactly the same question or keyword phrase to result in an entirely different piece of content pulled from your website?
Definitely. I mean, you think about the way that personas work, and we've seen this with ChatGPT introducing a memory layer where it takes into consideration all of your past interactions with the platform based on your account is going to give you answers based on that experience. For instance, if I put in my custom instructions and I tell it that I am the director of marketing at iPullRank, and then I ask what is the best SEO agency, it's much more likely to tell me that iPullRank is the best SEO agency. Now, don't get me wrong, it is the best SEO agency, but because it knows my relationship there, and I've done this, I've tested this out, and you could probably test this out for yourself with your own business, you can see a very personalized experience. And back in May, Google I/O, Google released that they're taking more personal context into consideration, whether it's your search history, whether it's even like your Gmail usage. Any data that Google has about you can inform the output it gives personalized to you. We've had personalization in SEO in the past. You just think about localization results. If you're going to get a different result based on where you live compared to somebody else, now just multiply that times 100, where Google or ChatGPT is taking all of the information about you and it's giving you a much more personalized experience. We'll see this mostly impacted or most impacted in things like e-commerce potentially. But I think that we're starting to see the impacts. I think it'll get much more significant over the next 6 to 12 months.
And obviously, knowing your audience is absolutely key. It's gold. It's essential to be knowing how they're likely to resonate with the content that you intend to produce.
Exactly.
What's your favorite way to actually go about researching who your target audience is and how to go and map the intended content towards them?
It's the old school ways, and I think there's a bunch of ways to do it. You don't want to find yourself in a sample bias where you're only looking at research from a specific segment that doesn't actually reflect both who your existing customers are, past customers, and potential future customers, and the entire market. So whether that's survey data, interviews, direct interviews with people, looking at search behavior using tools like SparkToro that looks at the places that your demographic tends to spend their time, taking all of this different types of market and audience research and then calibrating it to create content that's relevant to there while infusing your brand messaging, your brand positioning in there so you have the best chance to show up across the different personas. You know, we as the industry, I think there's become a period where people like kind of joke about personas, but there's a real value there. You're never going to get the individual level because that doesn't scale. But if you can generalize across a segment of shared attributes for different users and kind of get to the heart of what's important to them, you have a much better chance of creating the content that's not only going to resonate when they do go there, but is going to show up when they search for it.
Are you okay? So that's defining who your audience is and creating content for them. But how do you actually decide where they're likely to be interacting? But you obviously get new AI platforms, ChatGPT, Perplexity, AI Mode in Google as well, and other places, and so many other platforms online. Can you create content for everywhere? Do you decide which platform they're most likely to interact on and focus on that?
You know what? Classic SEO answer, but it depends. I think that, we have a finite amount of resources, right? In terms of where we spend our money and focus on our efforts. I think when it comes to the current and future state of marketing in general is an omni-media type of strategy, creating different types of content on different types of channels. But bigger enterprise brands are going to have a bigger budget that they can spend across all the different personas that they're trying to attract. Whereas if you are a small niche brand, you really have to know who your niche audience is and the content that appeals to them with a very targeted sense of market research. So like I said, it depends, but a good marketer is going to do the research, going to understand who they can target, they can afford to target, and how they can prioritize the best use of their resources to create the most valuable content that's most likely to resonate for their audience in the places where they spend their time. And going back to what the question about where they are, that really depends on using the tools or using the people at your disposal that you can find out that information. You just got to do the work.
And of course, a good SEO, a good marketer will be test and learning as well. We'll be having an incremental approach and seeing what works perhaps little by little on different platforms, then perhaps going all in after they receive the data. Is there any best way of looking at the data and deciding intelligently which platform to test initially?
Well, I think that, if you can get a sense, you look at trends, you analyze and try to identify those places, with survey questions, and you get a sense, like if everyone's saying that they're spending time on LinkedIn, then you go to LinkedIn. If everyone's searching for, your products in your industry using a certain type of language, you're going to use that language when you're describing your product. Using a tool, like I mentioned, like Sparkturo, doing the audience research. If they listen to a certain podcast or, they spend time on a certain social media channel. I think that there's a digital PR element there where beyond just going to your own owned media, being present on Reddit in the channels that they are, being on the trade publications where people are looking at these listicles, like listicles still have value in 2025, 2026, as much as we want to deny it. And so I think that, to your point, it's a moving target. We recently at iPullRank actually conducted a UX AI mode study, just looking at how people are searching, despite the fact that AI mode isn't the default version of search. There's a lot of friction to get there. But one thing that we found is there's no search channel that is definitively the right search channel for every type of search. For like news searches, for instance, people want to go directly to the publications that they already trust. When people want to do e-commerce searches, most of the time they want to go to Amazon because they want to see visuals. And if AI mode, for instance, right now isn't giving them a high quality carousel of products in the way that they want, they prefer not to go there. So I think over time, we're going to continue to see this fracturing of potential search preferences, depending on demographics, depending on search type, depending on modality, meaning like video, text, going to YouTube. All of this is, to your point, a moving target. And marketing's never been more fun, but it's never been more difficult.
There we go. There's a phrase for you. Marketing's never been more fun, but it's never been more difficult. And talking about phrases that you come up with, you also say use relevance engineering to align how AI surfaces content. What's relevance engineering?
Yeah, so that's really the framework, the discipline of how we think of the modern SEO at iPullRank. Our founder, Mike King, concocted this kind of perspective where we're realizing more and more that all of marketing really is holistic, especially as SEO evolves and AI search becomes the default way that we search for things. And so it's kind of the integration of 5 different disciplines: information retrieval, content strategy, user experience, digital PR, and then ultimately AI. And so how do those 5 different pillars come together to give you the best chance, coming back full circle to the tip, of being visible based on the probabilities that you appear in all of these different channels in the different omni-media modalities that your audience is potentially using to search for you?
And is that right for every type of brand? Is the relevance engineering, as you share it there, something that is suitable for every type of industry?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Because regardless of where you are predominantly getting your audience from, whether it's organic search or other channels, everything should support everything else. And so, ultimately people do search. Search isn't going away. So making sure that you are visible on whatever search platform in whatever means necessary for your brand and your audience is kind of the foundational layer of what relevance engineering aims to achieve.
Garrett, what's the key takeaway from the tip you shared today?
The key takeaway is this idea that search is becoming probabilistic, that the way that we thought about search in the past is changing. It's not just about rankings anymore. It's about creating the content that gives your brand the best chance to show up. It's like a raffle, buying lots of raffle tickets for a lottery that's changing every single time someone searches. So you better understand your audience, you better do your research, and you better make sure that you're everywhere that your audience is to be found.
Garrett Sussman is a director of marketing at iPullRank. Find out more over at iPullRank.com. Garrett, thanks so much for being part of SEO in 2026.
Thanks, David.
I've been your host, David Bain. Get your copy of SEO in 2026, the book, over at SEOin2026.com.